the next lesson, you will study vessels of upper limb and also thoracic aorta. So first, let's start with thoracic aorta. That's it. So we said that at the level of the fourth thoracic vertebra, arch of aorta continues to the descending aorta. And this descending aorta consists of two parts. Thoracic aorta, from the 4th to the 11th or 12th, in different books it's different information is given. So from the 4th thoracic vertebra up to the aortic hiatus, through which aorta passes, through the diaphragm, yes? And then below this aortic hiatus, abdominal aorta. Abdominal aorta ends at the level of the 4th lumbar vertebra, where it bifurcates into right and left common iliac arteries. So for the next lesson, we will be interested in thoracic aorta. It is located in front of the thoracic part of the vertebral column, and in front of it there is esophagus, so not exactly. So from the level, between the level of 4th and 7th thoracic vertebra, thoracic aorta is located to the left from the esophagus, and between 7th and 11th, it crosses the esophagus, and it lies behind it and slightly to the right. That's why aortic hiatus of the diaphragm is located behind esophageal hiatus and also slightly to the right from it. Thoracic aorta has parietal and visceral branches. Parietal branches are those which supply walls, and visceral branches are those which supply internal organs. Parietal branches are, first of all, it is superior phrenic artery, arteria phrenica superior. I think we cannot see it here, but this one is inferior phrenic artery, that is a branch of abdominal aorta. So together with inferior phrenic artery and also muscular phrenic artery and pericardiophrenic artery, which are branches of internal thoracic artery, yes, from subclavian artery, they supply diaphragm. So this is superior phrenic artery. The other parietal branch, they are numerous. These are posterior intercostal arteries. Arteria intercostalis posterior. Here we can see it. They are numerous. They are 10 pairs.
3rd to 12th.
Yes, from the 3rd to 12th pairs. Yes, so they are 10 pairs. From the 3rd to 11th, they are named posterior intercostal, and the 12th one is named subcostal. So it lies under the rib in the costal groove, yes, together with posterior intercostal vein and intercostal nerve. So they form neurovascular bundle. So that's it. As they supply proper muscles of the chest, and they also give spinal branch to supply meninges of spinal cord. That's it. So these are parietal branches. Visceral branches, they supply internal organs. So they supply mainly organs of posterior mediastinum. So they give mediastinal branches, bronchial branches, two principal bronchi, esophageal branches, pericardial branches, two posterior surface of the pericardium. That's it. So these are visceral branches. Okay, and vessels of upper limb. We should know both arteries and veins of upper limb. So subclavian artery, which you were supposed to study for today, you were saying that the end, lateral or inferior boundary of the subclavian artery is located at the level of superior axillary aperture. How a superior axillary aperture is formed, you have to revise. We studied it in myology. And so below the superior axillary aperture, inside the axillary cavity, axillary artery is located. This is axillary artery. Inferior boundary of axillary artery corresponds to inferior boundary of boundary or inferior axillary aperture. Yes, inferior axillary aperture. That corresponds to lower body of pectoralis major muscle on the anterior wall of the axillary cavity, or inferior border of latissimus dorsi muscle on the posterior wall of the axillary cavity. Walls of the axillary cavity you also have to revise. You also have to revise triangles of anterior wall of axillary cavity. Yes, when we studied it, we were saying that these triangles will be required to us when we study branches of axillary artery. Because topography of axillary artery and branches of axillary artery, they are studied according to these triangles. So there is clavipectoral triangle, the upper one, pectoral and subpectoral. Boundaries of these triangles you also have to revise for the next lesson. Okay, so this is axillary artery. medially and anteriorly from it, we can see axillary vein, and these are cords of brachial plexus. So brachial plexus is nerves, and cords of brachial plexus, medial, lateral, and posterior, surround the axillary artery from corresponding sides. So first we will start with branches of axillary artery, which arise from it at the level of clavipectoral triangle. The very first branch is coracoacromial trunk, truncus thoracoacromial trunk, yes, truncus thoracoacromialis. So we have already said that if it is trunk, means it's very short, yes, and it very fast after its origin, it gets divided into its terminal branches. Thoracoacromial trunk gives 4 branches. Acromial branch to the acromion of the scapula, and then pectoral branch to pectoralis major and pectoralis minor muscles, clavicular branch to the clavicle, and deltoid branch to the deltoid muscle. So actually, the whole myology of upper limbs you will have to revise. Please revise it. So this is thoracoacromial trunk. The other branch that also arises from axillary artery at the level of clavipectoral triangle, it is subscapular branch, not artery, because subscapular artery, it is a big artery that arises from subpectoral triangle. Subscapular artery, branch arises from axillary artery at the level of clavipectoral triangle, and it supplies subscapular muscle, musculus subscapularis. And yes, one more, it is superior thoracic artery, arteria thoracica superior. That's it. Yes, it goes medially, and it supplies first and second intercostal spaces. Because together with supreme intercostal artery, supreme thoracic artery, yes, supreme intercostal artery, that is branch of costocervical trunk. Together they supply first and second intercostal spaces. So at the level of the pectoral triangle, only one branch arises from axillary artery. It is lateral thoracic artery. It's not here, but it goes medially to the lateral wall of the chest, and it supplies serratus anterior muscle, musculus serratus anterior. And at the level of subpectoral triangle, it gives 3 more branches. First of all, here we can see 2 of them. It is anterior circumflex humeral artery and posterior circumflex humeral artery. As posterior is much larger than anterior. Both of them arise from axillary artery at the level of surgical neck of the humerus. Anterior circumflex humeral artery surrounds humerus surgical neck from anterior side, yes, and both of them supply shoulder joint. Yes, and posterior circumflex humeral artery goes surrounds surgical neck from posterior side, and it passes through quadrangular space. So these triangular and quadrangular spaces on the posterior wall of the axillary cavity, you also will have to revise. We studied it in myology. So they form anastomosis with each other at the level of surgical neck of the humerus. And also there are 2 more branches which participate in this anastomosis. That is deltoid branch of thoracoacromial trunk and deltoid branch which arise from deep brachial arteries that we will study later. All of them 4, they form arterial network around shoulder joint, and so they supply shoulder joint. And one more branch which arises from axillary artery at the level of subpectoral triangle, it is subscapular artery, arteria subscapularis. That's it. It is also very short artery and very fast. It gets divided into its 2 terminal branches. Thoracodorsal artery, arteria thoracodarsalis, it goes downward. It supplies latissimus dorsi muscle. Here we can see it goes downward, yes, to the latissimus dorsi muscle. And the second one, it is circumflex scapular artery, arteria circumflexa scapula. That's it. It goes backward. It passes through triangular space backward to posterior surface of the scapula, and it supplies muscles which are located on the dorsal surface of scapula. So this circumflex scapular artery forms anastomosis with suprascapular artery, that is a branch of thyrocervical trunk from subclavian artery. And they form like arterial network around the scapula, scapular arterial network. Okay, that was about axillary artery. So at the lower border of pectoralis major muscle, axillary artery continues to the brachial artery. This is brachial artery. It goes downward along the upper arm, along the humerus, and in the cubital fossa you also have to revise, we studied it in myology. In the cubital fossa, it gets divided into its terminal branches. It's ulnar artery, arteria ulnaris, and radial artery, arteria radialis. These are terminal branches which supply forearm. But first about upper arm, branches of brachial artery. So certainly brachial artery gives branches to all the muscles of anterior group of the upper arm, which you will also revise. These are muscular branches. And at the very beginning, it gives a very big branch, that is deep brachial artery, arteria profunda brachii. That's it. This deep brachial artery goes laterally and backward, and it enters superior opening of humeromuscular canal. Humeromuscular canal you will also have to revise. So this deep brachial artery passes inside in the humeromuscular canal together with radial nerve. This one is radial nerve. Deep brachial artery, this is radial nerve. This is deep brachial vein, which drains into brachial vein. Okay, so deep brachial artery gives muscular branches to supply posterior group of the muscles of the upper arm. It also gives nutrient artery to supply humerus, and it gives deltoid branch, which moves upward to supply deltoid muscle and to form arterial network around the shoulder joint. Так. Deep brachial artery. Yes, deltoid branch I told you, which goes upward. It supplies deltoid muscle, and also it participates in formation of arterial network around the shoulder joint. In the lower part, terminal branches of deep brachial artery, which arise from it at the level of lower 1/3 of humeromuscular canal, it is divided into two terminal branches. There is radial collateral artery and median collateral artery, which go laterally, like radial collateral artery goes posterolaterally. We cannot see it, I guess. Posterolaterally towards the elbow joint, and median collateral artery goes anterolaterally here. Now later we will say that these two arteries and some other, yes, they form anastomosis, and they form arterial network around the elbow joint. So brachial artery, yes, gives two more arteries. It is superior ulnar collateral and inferior ulnar collateral arteries. Superior ulnar collateral artery goes posteromedially also, and inferior ulnar collateral artery goes anteromedially around the elbow joint. And so all of these four collateral arteries, radial collateral, median collateral, superior ulnar collateral, and inferior ulnar collateral arteries, they participate in this formation of arterial network around elbow joint. That was brachial. So radial and ulnar. First, ulnar artery, arteria ulnaris. That's it. It is located deeper than radial artery. Radial artery goes more superficially. So first, ulnar artery, it moves infromedially. It passes under the pronator teres muscle. Here we can see it. After it passes under the pronator teres muscle, it goes between superficial and deep flexor. What is it? Yes, that's it. It goes between superficial and deep flexor digitorum muscles downward. So it is everywhere in all the parts. It is covered by muscles. And after that, it goes and it passes in a special canal in a splitting of retinaculum, flexor retinaculum. Flexor retinaculum. It passes and it continues to the hand. So in the forearm, it gives the following branches. First of all, at the very beginning, it gives recurrent ulnar artery that is very fast divided into anterior and posterior branches. So recurrent means that one which returns, yes, goes backward, yes, in the backward direction. So anterior ulnar recurrent artery goes anteromedially and forms anastomosis with inferior ulnar collateral artery from brachial artery. Posterior ulnar recurrent artery goes posteromedially and it forms anastomosis with superior, yes, ulnar collateral artery from brachial artery. The other branch that arises from ulnar artery, it is common interosseous artery. This one is common interosseous artery, but this is a continuation of ulnar, yes, artery. And this is common interosseous artery, this one. It goes, also it is very short. It gives, first of all, interosseous recurrent artery. Maybe, what is this? Okay, interosseous, yes, maybe it is this one.
Здравствуйте.
Здрасте.
Ma'am, you will be free in some time?
In some time, yes.
Okay.
Are you all right, Sandesh?
Yes, ma'am. I and Vasist came to talk to you.
And you are fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I'm fine. For sure.
Okay. So in interosseous recurrent artery that goes upward, it goes laterally, and it forms anastomosis with median collateral artery from deep brachial artery. Yes. Okay, and very soon after that, it gets divided into anterior and posterior interosseous arteries. Anterior interosseous artery lies on the anterior surface of interosseous membrane, and posterior interosseous artery lies on the posterior surface of interosseous membrane. Yes, and so both of these branches supply deep muscles of anterior and posterior groups of the forearm muscles. And then it moves, ulnar artery moves downward, and before it goes to the hand, it gives two more branches. It gives palmar carpal branch and dorsal carpal branch. Radial artery will give the same branches, palmar carpal branch and dorsal carpal branch. So palmar carpal branch from ulnar artery with palmar carpal branch from radial artery, together with terminal branch from anterior interosseous artery, they will form palmar carpal network here to supply all the structure, skin and muscles in front of the radiocarpal joint. Dorsal carpal branch from ulnar artery with dorsal carpal branch from radial artery, together with branch from anterior interosseous artery and posterior interosseous arteries, they will form dorsal carpal network. And dorsal carpal network is formed by 4 vessels, yes? Palmar carpal network is formed by 3 vessels only. So dorsal carpal network will supply not only dorsal surface of radiocarpal joint, but it will also give dorsal metacarpal arteries to supply this metacarpal region. Yes, 4 dorsal metacarpal arteries. Then dorsal metacarpal arteries will continue to dorsal common digital arteries, and each dorsal common digital artery is divided into 2 dorsal proper digital arteries to supply skin of adjacent, I think these are veins. These are veins, I think. To supply skin of adjacent surfaces of the fingers.
Anterior interosseous will be also continue towards the posterior on the dorsal side.
It will give branch, yes. Like terminal branch, it belongs to palmar carpal network, but it also gives branch that passes through opening in the interosseous membrane of the forearm, and it participates in formation of the dorsal carpal network.
Okay.
Так, what else? Yes, and after that, it continues to the hand. Yes, it continues to the hand. And here in the hand, ulnar artery. No, you should find your code first. Okay, and here in the hand, ulnar artery gives superficial, first it gives deep palmar branch, which forms anastomosis with terminal branch of radial artery, and they form deep palmar arch. And terminal branch of ulnar artery forms anastomosis with superficial palmar branch of radial artery, and they form superficial palmar arch, arcus palmaris superficialis. This superficial palmar arch gives first palmar metacarpal arteries, which continue to palmar common digital arteries, and each palmar common digital artery gives two proper palmar digital arteries to adjacent surfaces of
Phalanges.
yes of the fingers here. That's it. Okay, so radial artery. Radial artery lies more superficially, I told you. It goes medially from brachioradialis muscle, then between brachioradialis and superficial flexor digitorum muscle, and here it's in front of the, no, not yet, in front of the styloid process of the radius. It lies very superficially. It is covered only by skin. That's why it is like a point, yes, of pulsation. Like here we can identify pulse in this point. Okay, and after that, yes, it goes deeper, passes through anatomic snuff box, and continues to the dorsal surface of the hand. Radial artery gives radial recurrent artery that goes posterolaterally, forms anastomosis with radial collateral artery, and now we know all the 8 arteries, yes? So radial collateral with radial recurrent, form anastomosis, median collateral with interosseous recurrent, superior ulnar collateral with posterior ulnar recurrent, and inferior ulnar collateral with anterior ulnar recurrent arteries, like 4 pairs of anastomosis form arterial network around elbow joint. Yes. Okay. And here, yes, I told you that at the region of radiocarpal joint, radial artery gives palmar carpal branch and dorsal carpal branch to form palmar and dorsal carpal networks. And then when it continues to the dorsal surface, it gives artery of the thumb, arteria princeps pollicis, to supply both surfaces of the thumb, and also it gives branch to lateral surface of the index finger, yes. And terminal branch of the radial artery forms deep palmar arch with deep palmar branch of the radial artery. It's not visible here, it is under the tendons, yes, of superficial and deep flexor digitorum muscle. And it also gives superficial palmar branch to form superficial palmar arch with terminal branch of ulnar artery. So these are arteries. Now veins. You also have to know veins. Veins are divided into superficial and deep. From palmar surface of the hand, venous drainage goes to deep veins. And deep veins have the same course and the same names like arteries. They usually accompany homonymous arteries, and they are usually paired. Like there are 2 radial veins, 2 ulnar veins. Only large veins, such as brachial and deep brachial, they are unpaired. So here there is also superficial palmar venous arch, which continues to radial and ulnar veins, yes, then brachial veins. Здравствуйте. Здрасте. Radial and ulnar veins. Then here we can see what I have already showed it to you. Brachial vein, yes. Brachial vein drains into axillary vein. Axillary vein drains into the subclavian. And so from dorsal surface of the hand, venous drainage goes to superficial veins. They are different. So first here there is dorsal venous arch, which continues to dorsal metacarpal veins. And so continuation of the first dorsal metacarpal vein is named cephalic vein, and continuation of the fourth dorsal metacarpal vein is named basilic vein. And this both basilic and cephalic veins, they go this one is cephalic. Yes. No, this one is basilic, sorry. Basilic. So they move upward, and at the level of the cubital fossa, they form anastomosis. Here it is visible. Intermediate cubital vein. Intermediate cubital vein. So these veins are clinically significant because intravenous injections are conducted here, yes, are performed here in the cubital fossa. And then basilic vein drains into brachial vein, and cephalic vein drains directly into the axillary vein. So these are superficial veins of upper limbs. That's it.
Basilic vein joined to axillary. It's first joined to the deep brachial vein, then form axillary, then axillary it joined to cephalic vein to form subclavian.
I think cephalic vein drains into axillary, yes, they form subclavian after that. But basilic vein, I think, drains into brachial.
Deep brachial.
Deep brachial.
Yes.
Yes.
You let it be deep brachial, okay. No, so that's what you will have to study for the next lesson. You will have to revise the whole myology, yes, of upper limbs, I told you. You have to know all the arterial networks, blood supply of different groups of muscles, so everything. That's it. Any questions? And certainly you have to be able to show everything in the preparations.